And we're live. What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Roughing the Passer. My name, as always, Drew, and here with John Newman. Everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Roughing the Passer. Mute that stuff, dude.
There we go.
There we go. So what's going on, everybody? Sorry, getting this shared here really quick. Anybody watching this game right here? This is absolutely ridiculous. I see Indy just looks like they just recovered a fumble. Yep. Indy just got a fumble. 6 minutes left in the second, and it is tied 10-10. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's early. It's early. but you're right.
All right, John. Well, how was your football week this week, bud? Before we jump on into everything, how was your week?
Well, my Steelers lost again, which I'm almost getting used to it, but not really.
Right.
And then my college team didn't play, so they couldn't lose. So I'm wearing a college team hat. I can't even put on a Steelers hat today. It'll hurt my head.
Yeah, well, the one bright spot to all that, I guess, was you guys going to overtime and winning by 3. That knocked me out of one of my picks. I had the Ravens at 3.5. So you guys might not have won, but hey, if it makes you feel any better, at least I lost my pick.
you're gonna see. I'll rarely pick the Steelers for or against. I know them too well to bet on them. Either way.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's dive into the week here. Pull up the scores for this week. Actually, before we get into it, looks like we got some people watching. Tell everybody a little bit about the questions and everything. See if we can get something going here.
All right, folks. This is Roughing the Passer with myself and Drew Herndon. Drew is all the way in the warmer state of North Carolina. We are obviously here in Syracuse, New York, a little chillier. We're going to do this every Sunday night, 9:30. We're going to bring you the recap and the basically the rundown of the day in the NFL. We're going to talk about the games, individual performances. There'll be a fantasy aspect. There'll be a gambling aspect. Me and Drew come from with a card hobby background, as many of you might already know. So I have a feeling some of that may seep in there as well. We'll try not to do that too much, but I know it'll probably occur. So just be forewarned, but not too often. And we're gonna make picks every week and kind of compare notes and keep standings. We've already started to do that, and we'll talk about future games as well.
All right. Well, let's go on into we'll actually have some questions here in just a little bit after we go through the rundown of this week's game, guys. And one thing on this show that we're going to start doing here in future episodes is we're going to have a couple of different questions for you guys. And if you actually want to come on the show, whether it be just audio or video too, through you're just an iPhone, Android, anything, you'll actually be able to come on the show and talk to us. But we'll get into a little bit more of that later. But John, let's take a look at this week's games. And there once again, this is a really weird season. You've got Arizona, Kyler Murray getting his first win, beating the Bengals, another team that's struggling quite a bit.
I don't know if they count.
Hey, well, he gets his first win, and then next week he gets to play Atlanta. So, he's knocking a couple of them out, it looks like, pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, might get a second one. We'll give him that one. Atlanta, sort of an NFL team, kind of. Like the Steelers' one win is against the Bengals, and I'm not even going to count it for them. So,
yeah. And speaking of those Falcons, they got absolutely destroyed by the Texans, 53-32. This ridiculous. I love it.
Hey,
I love it.
did
Keep it
you
up.
know Dan Quinn? Did you know Dan Quinn was a defensive coach?
Atlanta doesn't. I mean, nobody there does. Jesus. That team is surprisingly bad. Like I follow the NFC South more than most, but if you had asked me before the beginning of the season which team in the NFC would be NFC South would be at the very bottom this all the way through the season, I would have said us or Tampa well before I would have said Atlanta. They're shocking how bad they are this year. Yeah, then you gotta do what?
Yep.
And then you got Buffalo and Tennessee. Buffalo won 14-7. That Bills team, that's a legit football team. That defense is just scary good.
Yep.
A week after doing that to Brady, I know. I mean, Mariota and Tennessee aren't near the Patriots, but they're a pretty good team. And I don't know. It looks like every Bills game is going to be under 20 points. Then you had Bears and the Raiders. Raiders getting a win. I don't know. No Trubisky. Good for Oakland. That's just kind of one of those throwaway games, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that was overseas in London. I'm sure right now the Bears wish they probably stayed home. That one, I know no Trubisky, but if you're the Bears in that division, you got to win that game. They didn't, so that one stings.
Yeah, and that's a game that you can win without Trubisky. I mean, let's be honest. Trubisky doesn't do that much. Trubisky is so guarded by the Bears. It's not even funny. I think he's incredibly overrated myself, but I guess that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, well, you won't get a debate from me because I feel the same way.
Yeah. And then you got the Vikings beating the Giants 28-10. Adam Thielen, I had him in my DFS, and I said it when I was talking to you earlier. I knew when he called out Cousins publicly, you always take a guy like that. If your quarterback is anywhere talented, I mean, Cousins is talented. He's just, I don't think he's consistent enough. But if you ever get a guy calling somebody out like that, they're normally in for a big day. And Thielen had a huge one.
Yep. Well, it was tailor-made playing the Giants. It was kind of tailor-made. They're a little down. They needed a W, and they go in there and get one.
Yep. And then Patriots, it took them quite a while. It took them a very long time to get this win, but they did beat Washington 33-7. Then you've got the Eagles beating the Jets 31-6. And the Broncos beating the Chargers 20-13. That was a surprising one for me. I did not see. I thought the Chargers. I didn't think the Broncos were that good, and I thought the Chargers were a lot better.
Yeah, this game cost me my second 4-0 week in a row with the picks. So I went 3-1 thanks to the Broncos.
Yeah. Well, I'm slowly catching up. I went 2-2, but for the second week in a row, my DFS was awesome. If you use the 50-50, you've won 2 weeks in a row. And if you use the standard, you were at least in the money running. So I'll be proud of those picks. Hey, if you can win a 50-50 DFS with your tight end being Greg Olsen getting 0 points, I don't know. That's a solid Sunday in my book. Wow. But yeah, it was a little ridiculous. But so let's go back now to look up here. Yeah, Steelers and Ravens, bud. Let's start back off with that game, and let's dive in. Sorry to torture you right from the beginning.
It is what it is.
But I mean, you guys went to overtime. I didn't get a chance to see the game. I'm guessing you watched every single second.
Yeah.
What'd you see?
They played, I got to say, I mean, a loss is a loss. I don't believe in moral victories. I'm not a moral victory guy per se. You know, Mason Rudolph got literally knocked out. I mean, he was out. He was out before he hit the ground, and then his head hit the ground a second time. So I think he's in a world of trouble. They took him to the hospital. They cut his face mask off, which is never a good sign. And so in comes from Stanford University, Devlin Hodges, who, off the practice. But I got to tell you, Drew, he actually played very well. And I don't know if you saw how that game ended, but he completed a nice drop and pass to Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, he did.
He took a couple steps with it. He was actually in basically Baltimore territory, and Marlon Humphrey punched the ball out. Smart football play. Took a weird bounce. Looked like it was going to go out of bounds. Stayed in bounds, and Humphrey recovered his own forced fumble, and the rest was history. When you have Justin Tucker, who doesn't miss field goals, that was the end. But from a fan perspective and as someone who, pardon me saying, knows football, the defense played really well. The running back position is a little muddled. I love James Conner. The story's great. But I went from thinking this guy would be the next guy after Le'Veon to now I'm really starting to, if he's capable of doing that. And as much as the NFL is a passing game, running the football is very important, as you know, and they're not doing a great job of it. And it's a lot of these close ball games are going to be determined by the run game. So they played well considering the circumstances, and that a practice squad quarterback had to finish the game out. But at the end of the day, it still went into that right column that you don't want it to go into. And when I say right column, the wrong column, but on the right. And so now they're 1-4. It's a division game, which as a fan, division games almost are like 2 losses. So it's going to be a very uphill climb. If we get into the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, Miami is rooting for anyone that plays the Steelers because they're just higher with every loss. And as a Steeler fan, that would be the worst nightmare. Is that thing's a top 10 pick, and we don't even get the player. So so there's a lot of things at play. It's frustrating. It's not something we're used to frustration in the postseason. Now we're at the point where we're not even getting there. So that's even a whole different realm. And
hey, welcome to my world. I mean, come on now, man. I don't even want to hear that stuff. But did you see?
In a better spot. You're in a better spot record-wise. You got a guy in the backfield that we're going to talk about that is probably one of the best players in football. I'd take him. I think anyone would take him in a heartbeat. And a lot of guys who doubted him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you see, before we move on to the other games, did you see what happened with Big Ben? Second he comes back to the sidelines, already getting fined for wearing an Apple Watch. Are you ready to call him a cheater?
I don't know. I honestly think the league just likes, I know it sounds like a stupid. I think the league just likes penalizing the Steelers, whether it's on the field or with fines and terrible referees. I mean, there was a terrible roughing the passer call at the end of today's game by Ola, one of our young defensive ends. He basically grabbed Lamar Jackson by the ankles and pulled him down.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they called a flag. If that's roughing the passer, I'm not right now, Drew. Let's just put flags on these quarterbacks. And when the flags, we'll go to flag football with these guys. I mean, it's just if I'm a defensive guy, like I don't even know how to tackle.
Yeah, you have no clue. No, you have no idea. It changes by the crew.
Video.
No, it changes by the officiating crew. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
You see it every week. But yeah, I was pretty surprised. I thought Pittsburgh. I don't know. I took Baltimore in that game, but I thought Pittsburgh was going to win that game. I just thought, never mind. Not what I was going to say. I took the Ravens to win that game in the spread, but I actually thought Pittsburgh was going to take that. But let's move on now to let's go down. Let's see. We got 2 more games left. Which one you want to go to now?
Let's do the Bucks and Saints game.
Sounds good to me. So Saints winning that game 31-24. I thought that was going to be in a very, very close game. Like a lot of the games this week, at least a lot of the close ones, divisional games. And this one was just what I thought it was going to be, except for I really didn't. I didn't see it being this high scoring, and B, I definitely didn't see New Orleans winning this game. It's blowing my mind what they're able to do without Drew Brees, and not only without him, but just what that defense is doing. That defense is impressive.
Yeah. Well, I looked at this game, and they've won a couple games without Drew Brees, Drew.
Yeah.
But Teddy Bridgewater's just being kind of a game manager. I mean, they beat the Cowboys they just kicked 4 field goals. So when I looked at this game today, I'm not saying Tampa Bay are world beaters because they're not.
Not yet. No.
4 field goals probably wasn't going to win today's game. And you wonder, what is Bridgewater? Is he going to be able to be a guy that can, even if it's for a half, put this team on his back and get him a win? And he was just lights out. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards.
26-34. 20. I mean, that's a solid 26-34, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's a solid stat line for any quarterback. I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, if I'm a Saints fan, that's definitely gives you reason to be excited. And Brees is starting to throw again. And even when Brees comes back, it's nice to know you got a guy in Bridgewater right there, if another injury occurs.
Unless you're a Panthers fan, then I guess it's exciting to know that. No, I'm impressed with them. I don't mind it as much now that we're winning, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I thought New Orleans was going to be here. So even when Brees went down, I kind of expected them to win a couple of these games. But Tampa has surprised me a lot. Got a really strong offense. Couple of, they've got that middle linebacker. I can't remember his name. Shaquille something Barrett, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Who's balling out like crazy. But beyond that, Jameis Winston's playing good, which is shocking to me. But Tampa, I mean, the NFC South is one of those divisions that at the beginning of the year, you can always chalk it up to being entertaining. You never know how it's going to play out. We beat each other up a lot. But, I mean, this one looks like it's going to be a fun race this year, especially with New Orleans staying in it without Brees.
Yeah, again, you got Bruce Arians there in Tampa Bay, known as the quarterback whisperer. It seems like Jameis is listening maybe a little bit, picking some stuff up. I know he's had a bad game earlier this year too as well, but I think he's going to benefit from having Arians there. Another guy that's really stepped his game up, a young receiver, Chris Godwin, from the fantasy guys out there and even card collectors. He's really stepped up, and he's one of those guys, even in my fantasy draft, I had a feeling he was going to have a better year. So, Winston's got weapons. You got Godwin, you got Mike Evans,
big time.
By committee, Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones. And so I think if they ever get like a true one running back, they could even, you probably don't want to hear this, but it could get a little bit even more, more competitive in that division. So
we'll see about that. No, I'm just but it's interesting. They're definitely building something there. I mean, let's be honest though, they had nowhere to go but up. But at least they're trending in the right direction. But all right, we'll move on to the last game of the week, and that, of course, is my Panthers getting the win against the Jaguars, 34-27. This thing won't go off. There we go. Huge day by Run CMC. 237 total yards from scrimmage. I mean, the dude, he is absolutely incredible. I never imagined him being this good when we drafted him, but I think you really have to put him in the MVP conversation now. Especially with, I mean, I'm watching games right now. You've had Brady struggle for 2 weeks. You're watching Kansas City right here not having a great game. 10 points at halftime against Indy, a team they should blow out. I mean, there's not a lot of clear-cut favorites, but McCaffrey, I could easily see him getting 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing. I mean, it's nuts. I don't know if you saw his highlights today, but his 3 touchdowns they showed off 3 completely different aspects of what he can do incredibly.
Yep. Take him off that team. Where would you be? Think of not
hanging out with Miami at the beginning of the draft.
and to me, that's if you look up the definition of how league word their MVP awards. It basically, I'm paraphrasing here because it's a lot longer than I'm going to say, but it basically says who means the most to their individual team. And if he doesn't epitomize that, then I don't know who gets the award. I know Mahomes is going to go down at this rate at one of the all-time greats, and he's probably the best quarterback in the league. And I know that a lot of times it is a quarterback award. But how do you not look at what Christian McCaffrey's doing and how he's? I mean, you can attest to this even more than me, Drew. He's carrying that team almost 100%. Think of that. Their starting quarterback is not in the game. He's been out a few weeks now, and they're not missing a beat. Think about what he does on he's multidimensional. He's probably one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best. And if he just became a wide receiver tomorrow, he'd probably be one of the best wide receivers in the league. And then you got him doing both in the same game during the same season. And I mean, I don't know what else you have to say. And regard whether he wins the MVP or not, which you like to see good deeds get rewarded. Just a amazing player. I have a few players that I'm a fan of that are not Steelers, and he's right there as one of them. Him and Saquon Barkley are my probably 2 non-Steeler favorite players, and they're not. Both of those guys are, and maybe this is probably why I tend to lean towards them. They're not brash. They don't do a lot of talking. Right. They do their talking with their play. Which is obviously in both of those cases very good. I know Saquon's hurt, but when he's on the field, these guys are just quiet leaders who just fill the stat sheet, carry their teams. And, you put either one of these guys on any team, and I don't care really how bad the rest of the team may be, they're probably going to be instantly competitive. And that's saying something.
No, I mean, hey, you're not going to get any argument from me. I made that ridiculously funny. Well, at least I thought it was funny. A little post on our page during the game about him winning MVP. I think he should, if he keeps it up, of course. I will say our line is blocking incredibly good. But thank goodness for him because Kyle Allen, they said he was running the running back drills on how to hold on to the football, like the running back drills at practice. I really wish they would get video of that and put it out to the public because it would be funny. I mean, this dude cannot hold on to a football, and I like him, but oh my God, like I've never in my life been so scared of a sack. Like, I mean, I'm terrified that it's just, it's over. But the defense, Carolina's defense, that's another thing. It's, you get a backup quarterback in. I think if it was Cam, the defense would get a little bit more credit than they're getting right now. Defense is playing lights out. Offensive line blocking like crazy. McCaffrey's hole on that 78-yard run or whatever it was enormous. He just had to find it. I think they're set up for quite a solid run this year. It'll be interesting to see when Cam gets back. This is a really tough part of our schedule coming up, and next week's going to be rough. We got to go to London. I'm not a fan of that at all. We've got the London game, so we'll see. But CMC, at least somebody's doing something besides Cam.
Yeah, just incredible, man. He's a fun dude to watch too. You don't have to be a fan of that team he's just one of those players. If you're switching channels and you get to the Panthers game, you want to watch him play. There's not a lot of players. There's not as many players that you think you can actually say that about. For me, if I would put him, Saquon, and probably Pat Mahomes as Deshaun Watson, that, but there's probably less than two hands worth of players that you would watch just for their performance, and he's one of them. And so good that you guys have him. I'd love a back like that in Pittsburgh. I don't know if we're years, probably light years away from that, but it's a good thing. I think we got teams, our personal teams are trending in different directions. And it's all Ron. I like Ron Rivera as a coach. It seems like it's like every other year. It's like he's on the hot seat, then he does this.
Good. He drives me crazy. He drives me nuts. And I'm one of those guys that'll try and stick up for you forever. I mean, if you're on the Panthers, you've got to. I mean, you got to go Ray Caruth the situation before I'm just gonna just stop, like at least trying to defend you. So,
Ray Caruth. I mean, we didn't know we were going to talk about Ray Caruth tonight.
No, I didn't. But hey, you never know where I'm going to go with this stuff. But Rivera drives me nuts, and it's one of those games where, like today, it shouldn't have taken. This is a game we should have easily won once we got that lead. But once again, a combination of play calling, time management, it makes the game so much closer than it should be. That's kind of his MO. And he's one of those guys that I think he's going to get his round of head coaching. Then once he's done in Carolina, he's going to go back and he's going to find a really good staff, become a DC there, which is what he's best at, and probably win a Super Bowl or two because he's a great coach. He's just not a head coach, at least in my eyes. But
yeah. And there are a few guys. I know we've had this conversation before. You got your Schottenheimers, back in the day. You got your Norv Turner, guys that they can win, but they can never get over that big hump. And they were just their resume looks better as coordinators than as head men.
Yeah.
And I maybe you're right. You know them better than I do. I'm more of an outsider. Looking in, I'll acquiesce to your opinion. Tomlin, for me, going back to the Steelers, I was a big fan, but I'm slowly at the point now. I'm just, what happens, this as well as I do, Drew. When a guy's there a long time, the message starts to fall on deaf ears. And you can only hear, I've come from coaching. I'm not trying to compare what I did to NFL level, but, you can only use the same rhetoric, the same speech so many times. And after coaches, even the best of them sort of have a shelf life of how long it can be in one locker room. And
especially when you have the turnover that they had too. I mean, I don't care how strong that message is. If you let's forget about like the secondary guys they lost. When you lose your top wide receiver, your top running back, I mean, it's hard to eat whether AB was helping keep that message or not, whatever it may be. That culture, everything that they'd built, it starts to evaporate. And those new guys, I mean, can they make it the same as before? There's always a ton of question marks when that happens.
Yeah. Tomlin's a player's coach. Now there's two sides to that coin. Some people say that's good, and some people, and I might be on that side of the coin, say sometimes that's not always good because they take advantage. The players will take advantage of that. I think that happened with AB and Bell there, and I think he's trying to be more of gain control back of the locker room, but that's tough to do that when that's not in your persona all this time. And now all of a sudden, it's like Ben. Ben, if you read all the stuff behind the scenes, he's not a real great leader. He doesn't come in early. And now this year, he's trying to be better. Even though he's hurt, he's still there, go in the meeting rooms. And it's people sometimes see that and say, that's just phony baloney. And, I guess it's better than not doing it. But at the same time, it's like you are who you kind of are. And,
Yeah.
13, 14 years in the league. And then all of a sudden, you're going to try a different tactic. I think people kind of see that what it really is. And they're not going to necessarily buy it hook, line, and sinker. So, I think there's a little bit of that going on, and I guess as a Steeler fan, we just gotta, hang on for dear life here. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a rough season, but let's face it, it is Pittsburgh. I doubt you guys stay down that long. Some of the better teams in the league never seem to stay down that long. But I wanted, before we move on to stock up and stock down, I wanted to get your opinion on something. And if anyone's watching, they can feel free to comment too. I'm looking at all the scores of these games. I'm looking at stats, and then I'm looking at the records. And John, I want your opinion on this. Is Seattle the best team in football? I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't see how you can't say they aren't. I'm seeing every team struggle except for them. I'm seeing Russell Wilson play the best football he's ever been in. And as I'm looking through all of these games today, all these scores, and looking at really the takeaway of everything, I just see a Seattle team that, at least in the NFC, I mean, you just beat LA today. This is a strong football team. But are they the best in the NFL right now?
I'm going to say no, and they're very good. Russell Wilson is like you said, he's on my fantasy. He's my fantasy starter. So
nice.
He's having, like you said, one of the best seasons of career, and he's had some good ones already. It's not like he's just showing up all of a sudden like a flash. Probably, right there, him and Mahomes, probably two best quarterbacks this year. And I know a lot of people don't like him, Drew, but Pete Carroll can coach a little bit. I think that's shown this year. And he's another. He's like Tomlin. He's a player's coach as well. He's very laid back and easy going. But he's seeming to get better results from that tactic than Tomlin is. So, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say probably Pete Carroll's probably a better coach. So you can get away. When you're a better coach, you can kind of make up your own rules a little bit more. When you're not, everything's going to be micromanaged and looked at. Oh, well, he didn't do this, and when you win, those ills don't.
It goes away.
Yeah, as much. So they're right there, man. It's hard to say. You know what I mean? I think. I look at Kansas City and I say, man, they've got weapons on kind of both sides. Like you said, they're struggling tonight. It's kind of they are. It's injuries can happen. I use that excuse. I guess maybe I'll backpedal a little bit here, Drew. I guess right now, hard to argue they're not. If you're asking me big picture, I don't see them winning the Super Bowl, and that's. To me, that's be the best team, and get through all that postseason. You gotta be the best team, and so I guess the Patriots are kind of there still. I don't think they're traditionally as strong as a lot of Patriot teams we've come to know over the last few years.
No, it's amazing how much they needed AB. I think I think teams always start off the season. The Patriots are so good, and their coaching staff is so good at matchups and just not showing you anything. I think at the beginning of the season, you just saw teams have absolutely no idea what to expect from New England. Now you see what happens when you get a couple of weeks of film. Now, granted, Buffalo's defense is shutting everybody down. But this game today, this is Washington. Granted, they ended up pulling away from here, but you start that slow against some of the top tier teams, and you're not going to end up taking that game. And so I don't know. Going back to that Seattle question, I'm kind of right where you were, where right now I think they are the best team in football, like today, like this moment. But do I think come week 17 into January, February? No, I don't. But right now, just looking at the schedule, looking at everything, I'm looking at big takeaways in the big picture, and I'm just like, okay, if I'm doing a power ranking right now, I can't put anybody ahead of Seattle. I mean, they've got to be my number one, especially with Kansas City struggling this bad against a mediocre at best Colts team.
Yeah, and that's, I think we're on the same page. That's how I answered your question. I guess if we did a rankings, ESPN always does those NFL power rankings. I don't like those. I don't know about you. I don't like them because they don't. What do they really mean?
Nothing.
I remember years the Steelers were like 2 or 3 on that list and got bounced in the first round of the playoff. So what did the power rankings really do for us? It's not college football where you got to be in the top 4 to get
matter
championship.
Yeah.
So I think it's more for fans to brag. Yeah, did you see the ESPN power rankings? We're number 1.
It's to fill up a day's worth of time. It's to give Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, or whoever's screaming at the television. It's to give them something to argue about for 45 more minutes.
I agree.
Instead of covering anything else. But anyway, let's move on now to stock up and stock down. Some guys that maybe fantasy-wise and for our hobby friends, like we said, that are in the hobby. These are probably some guys that might be a little too late to chase after, but definitely not too late to get rid of. But John, I'll start with you. When you look at this week, who got your first stock up here?
I got 4 guys, but the first guy I want to mention just for time wise, how about Will Fuller in Houston?
Amazing.
14 catches, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did his best DeAndre Hopkins impression, and then did it even a little bit better. And you look at that line there, Drew, and you say, well, maybe DeAndre must have had a bad day. Now he actually had a pretty good day. Too. And if Houston's going to get that kind of production, we've always heard about Will Fuller. He's coming, and then he never gets there.
Gets hurt.
And now it's starting to look like he's figuring things out. Maybe the game's slowing down for him.
It's really funny. It's really funny. I'm looking through daily fantasy stuff a couple of days ago, looking through lineups, and I'm trying to figure out a value play. And I'm looking through Matthew Berry's Love or Hate on ESPN, and he has Will Fuller in his love column. And I'm thinking, why? I'm like, he has done nothing this year. And literally his reasoning was, I just have a feeling. He's like, I just have a feeling he's going to go off. And of course he does. So I guess that's why he works for ESPN. I'll give him that. That was a ridiculously good pick. But yeah, Will Fuller was awesome, man. Yeah.
And he has the tools. Maybe this is the start of him actually putting this whole game together. And I'll be honest with you, if that's the case, Houston's going to be a force, because Deshaun Watson's a guy. I didn't see this kind of performance from him. I didn't think I didn't put the bust label on him, but I thought he was like over
middle of the road. Yeah.
I thought he's going to be a good quarterback. But he's turned out to be, at this point, if you don't call him elite, you're doing him a disservice. I mean, he's just, I watched some of this game actually, and not Lamar Jackson. A lot of people like to compare these two guys, which at this point is way too soon. But obviously I watched Lamar in total today, and I've watched enough of Deshaun. These guys are. Right now, Deshaun's accuracy is just way better than Lamar's. The Deshaun throws downfield with accuracy, and this is something that Lamar hasn't done, and so with consistency against good teams. And so until and I know he's only in his second year, but until sometimes we do that. The media is too quick to compare players to people that have similar styles of play. And so I think to compare Lamar Jackson to Deshaun Watson is really a disservice to both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
At this stage. And so
at this point,
yeah. So and I'll be the first to admit I didn't see Deshaun being this kind of level of talent on this level.
Nope.
And here's the scary thing, he's still very young, and it seems like
very young.
He's getting even better. So where's the ceiling going to be on this guy? And Bill O'Brien's I think a pretty decent coach. They got some pieces there. If they get a few more pieces there, they could be another team in that AFC that has something to say about who gets to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, who else did you have for stock up?
Another, I talked about him, so we won't spend any more time. Deshaun Watson was on my list. I'll just give his line real quick. 28 for 33, 428 yards, 5 touchdowns, 47 rushing yards. That's like Tecmo Bowl. That's remember playing Tecmo Bowl as a kid?
Oh, awesome game. Greatest. What was it? Was it Marcus Allen that you just could not tackle? Was that it? Or was it Bo Jackson? Yeah, just could not tackle him in that game. Yeah. It's awesome.
So I won't. He was one of my 4. We kind of covered him with the Wolf. But the other guy, another young receiver. And Jacksonville has really been trying to find a guy. 1 year.
I know what you're about to say, and I agree with you.
Yep. 1 year it's going to be Marquise Lee. He's going to step up. Then it's D.D. Westbrook. This guy's good, and no one's fulfilled that point. Yeah. And I'm not saying this guy could probably have a down week next week, but how about today? 8 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Chark from
I watched that game probably better than any other game this week, and DJ Chark blew me away. He had 1 catch. I can't remember if they reversed it and gave it to him or if they didn't right there at the goal line, where it was punched out at the 1. But how he caught the ball, I still do not know how he was able to catch this football. It was absolutely incredible. I love the kid. I think he's awesome. I'm right there with you. And I actually think Minshew he's a former East Carolina guy, so I love him. But I actually think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a second, third tier quarterback in this league. The more I see him, it's one of those things in the NFL, especially with quarterbacks. If you can get the confidence really early, if you've got the talent and the game slows down, then you're going to do something if you've got a team around you. And Jacksonville does have a really good team around them. So I actually love the DJ Chark pick because he was somebody that I have crossed off here on my list, but he was one of the guys I had up on my stock up column as well.
Yeah. And, we'll bring a little bit of the card aspect in it, Drew. He's a guy, if you think if he's going to be the next guy and a solid player, this stuff is very undervalued at this point. So,
big time.
If you're going to invest, if you're a card guy, and you think DJ, that's more of a reality than an abnormality, I think now's your chance you better grab the cards while they're at the lower levels because
he's got a pretty low ceiling being a wide receiver, but I agree with you. As cheap as they are, they can go up. Obviously they're not going to skyrocket being in Jacksonville and a wide receiver, but like you said, they're ridiculously low. So at that point alone, they're just a good value.
Yeah, they're in a lot of bargain boxes.
Yeah, that they are. Yeah. All right. So for my stock ups, the first one we talked about a little bit already, CMC. You see the sign behind me. Yeah. MVP. I think he needs to win MVP if he keeps it up. We would be terrible without him. So, I don't see how you can go for 237 total yards from scrimmage, 3 touchdowns, and not have your stock go up. So he's on my list. And the second one we talked about a little bit, and I actually disagree with you a little bit. I have Teddy Bridgewater. I thought he had a great game today. In a division game, I thought I was really not sold on him at all. I thought that that New Orleans had a good enough defense to win those games previously without Breeze. I didn't think I would ever see him be the reason that they won. And today, I mean, 26-34, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Talking about a guy that I don't know how big you were into football in 2015, but his cards, I mean, you could remember all the times before his cards had a little bit of hype, then a ton of hype, and then that injury happened and it disappeared. You're seeing a guy now, I think, finally get the beginning of a true redemption story. And for him to stay in New Orleans, then get this chance, then do what he did today, I mean, stock way up, at least in my opinion.
No, I agree. He had a great performance today. And, speaking of him, just real quick, when you look at how he did today, and you mentioned Gardner Minshew, I think what these guys have done with their play is they've really ensured that even when the starters come back, they're going to have a good probably 8, 10, maybe longer year career in the NFL, maybe a starter depending on what team they go to, but definitely as the number 2 guy waiting for even injury, or even if a starter struggles a little bit, to say, hey, let's get this guy in here and take a little pressure off the starter and see what he can do as well. So they've ensured their careers are definitely going to be longer than maybe we first thought they were before the year even started.
Big time. I completely agree with you. So, all right, let's move on now from stock up to stock down. Some guys that didn't help their cause on Sunday. So, who you got for stock down this week?
You're gonna like me with this pick. All right, staying in your division.
He's a Falcon then.
Yeah, yeah. Devonta Freeman. This guy is just robbing the Falcons.
Big time.
And I just, I don't know what's going on there.
I do. You get paid and you lay down. I mean,
he's had injuries, but even when he's played now without the injuries, the production's not there. Today, 11 carries, 30 yards in a game which was like a video game score, 86 points scored, almost 1,000 yards of offense combined, and you get 11 carries for 30 yards. Like I think I could have played running back for the Falcons today and probably got 11 carries and got 40 yards. It wouldn't have been a pretty 40 yards. I might have tripped out for 5-6 yards a couple times, but it's like the guy, if he wasn't getting paid, I'd probably give him more of a pass.
Yeah.
But the guy makes crazy money,
ridiculous money.
And, and listen, they know what's going on. They're starting to give the ball. He didn't play well today either, but, and Nito Smith, but they're starting to probably, I'm sure internally there, say what's going on and what are we going to do?
Freeman reminds me a lot of East Carolina Pirate guy, a guy I went to college with and actually knew in college very well, but Chris Johnson. Started out great on their rookie contracts, got paid, and as soon as they did, it's like they care more about their body and they just don't. The effort's not there. I know Freeman's had a lot of injuries, but he's not as explosive. He's not going through holes hard at all. I know there's not many holes there with that offensive line in Atlanta, but the effort isn't there. He doesn't look like the same player. So I'm right there with you on him for stock down.
Yeah.
So who else you got on stock down this week?
All right. I'm an equal opportunity, not a homer. I may be a huge Steeler fan, but I got to call it like I see it. And I talked a little bit about this maybe already. I love the story. He's a great individual person, and James Conner. But, he had that incredible year when Bell held out. And it's now that once Bell was definitely out of the picture and had signed, and now he's averaging under 3 yards a carry. It just seems like soon as that first hand gets on him, he's not breaking tackles like we saw in the past. And I notice even if you buy into some of this off the field stuff, even when you see some of his press conferences, he's a lot more short and curt with the media. So I don't know, I'm sure he's frustrated like any player at 1-4.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he's hearing some of the doubters, myself now, in that group. I think I'm not saying he's not an NFL running back.
No.
You know this just as well. But there's guys that are ones like your Christian McCaffreys, Saquon Barkley's, and then you got your kind of complementary backs. And he's starting to me to look more like the complementary back than that guy you say, we don't need a running back, we got James Conner. So and that's a concern because the Steelers, I think, penciled him in as, I think one of their stances they took with Bell was knowing that Conner was there.
Definitely.
And now that's not really, that production's not really what they need it to be. I'm not blaming him for 1-4 because I don't believe he's the reason they're 1-4, but that lack of production from the position, and no one else is lining it there. Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell's come in. They're averaging about 3 to 3.2 yards a carry.
No, he's absolutely struggling. I agree with you completely. I think I don't know. I think it's one of those instances of also when teams get a lot of film on you. You've got to adapt, especially in the NFL. You've got to change something, and you've got to be able to do the things that the defensive coordinators give you when they start taking away what you're good at. And I do think he's really struggling at that right now. So yeah, two really good stock downs there. For my first one, I'm actually going to go with one of the late games today, and I actually watched this with Jude for a while, and Dak Prescott, just terrible. I mean, after last week's performance, you have Green Bay at a 4:30 game when there's another game in London, so there's barely any late games on. I mean, it might as well be a primetime game. Sunday gets better ratings than Monday nowadays anyway. And you come out and put up a 27.1 QBR with 3 interceptions. I mean, and you're trying to get paid. Like you're going out there every week trying to justify $26 million a year. And you you pretty much won $1 million per point of your QBR. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So Dak is definitely on my stock down this week. I don't know what's going on with the Cowboys. I think it's another one of those instances of once the season starts and people get a little bit of film and get a little bit of an idea of what you're going to do, you're seeing a lot of teams come back down to earth. And Dallas is definitely one of those teams in my eyes.
To me, Drew, Dak is one of those guys who'll have that great game.
Yeah.
And then there'll be 2, 3, 4 weeks where it just doesn't happen again. And again, he's one of those guys, and I don't think he's terrible, but I also don't think he's as good as other people like to say he is. He'll sometimes feed off those lesser opponents and fill his numbers up. Yeah. And so when you look at the end of the season, you say, if you just looked at a fantasy book and it has all the stats, you'd say, man, he's pretty good. But if you actually watch the games, you won't really say that the same way. I think he gets a lot of his numbers in those, when they're playing the Bengals and the Dolphins. And then when he gets into real defenses, those same games don't occur. When you look at just a stat sheet, you say, oh, man, these are pretty solid numbers. Yeah. But if you actually watch, like you just said, if you actually watch the performance, you're scratching your head.
He's definitely not worth an entire week's worth of Skip and Shannon on Undisputed discussing his performance. I don't know. I don't see him in that category. I just think when you're trying to get paid, you can't go into a game like this against a Packers team that is beatable and just lay this performance. But my other stock down for the week, I'm going to make a little exception here to the rule, and it's not a player. it is a team in general, and that is the Patriots as a team. I know they won today, but I mean, I can't see anything that wouldn't make me want to drop them down. Brady can't do anything against Buffalo. It takes them forever. I had a bunch of players on their team on my fantasy teams today, so I was watching that game pretty closely, and it took forever to get going. And I think losing their center in the preseason really hurt them. I know they've got weapons. I think they needed Antonio Brown a lot more than people thought. And I see a team, if the playoffs were to start today, there would be at least 3 teams in the AFC that I would put above New England. And there's at least 2 or 3 in the NFC that I would. So there may be a top 5 team to me right now. So as for my stock down, I'm putting the Patriots as a team.
Yeah, going back to that Bills game you talked about, I watched that game. Josh Allen was terrible. 3 picks. He was all 3 picks. He's throwing off his back foot. If he even has half the bad game that he did, the Bills actually win. He just had his worst game, probably one of his worst games as a pro. Like I said, 3 picks and bad times when they were kind of moving up the field and had some momentum, and then he threw it off his back foot. I agree with you. I don't think this is traditionally the Patriots teams that we've gotten used to in the past. But the thing that scares me, Drew, and when you were talking, I was saying, don't do it. Every time, and I'm guilty of this myself. Don't feel bad. I'm not picking on you. I've done this too. Every time someone, and myself has done this, buries them, it's like there's some deal with the devil, and they just turn it on in the postseason. Yeah. And probably in half the rings they've gotten, that was a year I said, "Oh, they're not winning no Super Bowl this year. They're not the Patriots we're used to. That someone else gets to hold up the Lombardi and go out." And
people can come and give me crap in January or February when they're storming through the postseason. I mean, I fully expect them to rebound and be perfectly fine. I just see a team that, if they're not careful, I mean, they're very lucky to have escaped both of these weeks, because a couple of bounces the other way in that Washington game, the Patriots aren't taking that the way they were. And so, I don't know. A little shocking to me, especially when you're starting the season. You're hearing people talk about, will they ever lose? I know they haven't yet, but you can't keep playing like that. Not if you're going to play teams like that every week. But
I actually agree with you. I just don't like to say it, because it's almost like they hear everything and they use it. Like this John Newman in Syracuse, Drew Herndon in North Carolina said this, guys. And, I love him or hate him. Bill Belichick, to me, is probably the best coach in the NFL. To see what he's done with the talent he's had. They're a hard team. You want to say you want to bury him and put the tombstone on there, but you just I've learned not to do that no more, because the minute I do, I even said before the Steeler game, I think we win. One of my Steeler buddies like, how you feel about the game? And I said, well, New England traditionally plays bad the first game of the year. I think we got subtraction by addition by subtraction now without Bell and AB. I think we come out today and win, and we saw how that went. It was really ugly. So just when I think I got them figured out and that this isn't, they proved me wrong. I think, like you said, you hit it right now. I don't think Brady's playing well. I don't think the team is firing on all cylinders like they traditionally do. But I'm not. I don't want to do what you just did, because it's like every time I do, maybe it's all right that you did, but every time I've done that in the past, it just backfires on me.
Right. So. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it'll. There's a very good probability that it backfires on me as well, but we will see. But John, so coming up, let's see. This week, before we wrap up, let's take a look. With picks this week, you went 3-1, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. All right. I went 2-2. So your lead is extended a little bit more, racking up some nice wins early. But what are you looking forward to this week when you look at what's coming up in the next 7 days or so?
Yeah, for me, I'm so solar. I don't know how you are, but I always look at like the next Steeler game. And
Yeah.
we're so bad right now. I was hoping it was a bye week. It's not. They get the Chargers in San Diego or in LA or wherever they play now. When they lost, they're the ones that put the loss on me this week. So,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just when you're this isn't very traditional to be 1-4 as a Steeler fan. So I got a feeling I'm going to start paying. Not that I don't. I do pay a lot of attention to all the games, but at some point, I'm probably just going to be so fed up with the Steelers. I'm getting there. Here's my sign. I don't know if you can see it. I get out of your way. The way it says, "Tired of Steelers losing, selling my loyalty to highest bidder." So I might be a new fan.
I was about to say, come on down.
If I don't believe in second favorite teams, Drew, but if I have one, if I could go there, I do kind of see. I don't want to say even secretly. I kind of root for the Bills. So does my son because we're close. We seem to go to 2 or 3 games a year with extra tickets and whatnot. So I don't have a second favorite team, but like it would be like if I wasn't rooting for the Steelers, I'd kind of keep an eye on what the Bills are doing. And they're
that's a fun team. They're building something there. That defense, it's scary good. If they get that offense worked on, then they're going to be awesome. And when I'm looking at the next 7 days, at least with the Panthers, it worries me because if we don't play Sunday at 1:00, it could get bad. It could get ugly. It just the history of our team, 25 years. If it's an afternoon game, if it's a night game, if it's a primetime game, we normally play bad. Going overseas to London, that's going to be a rough one. So not looking forward to that at all. But
I gotta ask you because you would know before me what is going on with like Cam? What is the injury? What's the timetable?
Well, it depends on what doctors you ask. The Panthers are his. Which he's fine. He's going to come back in a couple of weeks. You're going to start to see all of the. I'm not looking forward to it, but you're about to start seeing all of the should they put Cam in type crap. He's starting to practice all week junk. You're probably going to see that in a couple of weeks. And then at that point, at least for me, and anyone that knows me knows I'll back Cam up. I always have for a very long time. At least for me, I'm at the point where he's so cheap from a financial standpoint and from the rest of the team we have around us right now. Put him back in, let him beef up his trade value, or let him beef up enough to where you can get rid of him and get something else and do what you want to do. Because I don't think he's the future of the franchise anymore. I said that last week. But you're going to see him in a couple of weeks. He'll come back, and whether he's healthy or not, who knows? If you ask the Panthers, yes, but if you ask his doctors, no. And I mean, hell, if you ask Cam half the time, he tells you no, and he's really hurt. So until I see him come out, you can tell immediately. If you watch Cam his entire career, he can take a couple of snaps. I knew in that Patriots game when he went down, I knew he was never the same from there on out from the preseason. You can just see it in the way his balance is throwing the ball. It's awkward enough, but when he's hurt, it's really weird. And so you'll be able to see as soon as he comes out on the field. But it'll be a couple of weeks, and we'll start to see Grandma Newton come back out here, see what he can do.
Yeah. What is what is the fan base, the Panthers fan base? Are they still on board? Do you think they're
there's a section of the fan base that was there's a section of the fan base that was never on board.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into all the reasons on that. You can go into any forum, and it's plain as day to see why. But everybody's kind of at the point now where even now I don't want to speak for everybody, but a lot of people, myself included, that were big time Cam supporters that fought through him for a lot of losing seasons, for a lot of crap, for a lot of terrible play since he won an MVP season, that had his back the entire time. It's wearing on people, especially not telling the team about an injury. I get if it's week 14, week 16, and you're in a playoff push. This is the beginning of the year, dude. Like, sit your ass down. Like, just sit down and get healthy. Why do you have to go out there? And I mean, I know he's not thinking long term because he's getting $17-18 million. Why would he? But I don't know. They're all at the point now where if you're not going to come back, you do all the things like the dressing and stuff as distractions, which the people in this town and the media focus on more than your play. Well, change it by your play being a little bit better. Otherwise, I mean, that's the only thing to focus on. But I think everyone's at the point I am where we're just sick of it. And now you see how cheap it is to get rid of him and how affordable it is. Very rarely can you get rid of a quarterback that's in a level 1 or level 2 tier. Very rarely can you get rid of a quarterback like that for cheap. And we can save $17 million by doing it next year. So, I mean, I think that's where a lot of people are. They look at it, they see the team, they see how we're playing without him, tied for the top of the division or a game behind in the division. A defense that's incredible, best running back in the league, at least in my eyes. Definitely the best hybrid wide receiver running back. I mean, you've got pieces. And if you believe Will Greer's the future, I don't. I know some people do.
I like him, but
I like him. He's a 3-year project. If he's going to be the future, it's 3 years. Keep Cam around. Greer is an Aaron Rodgers type that needs to sit back, and Norv Turner and that system down there in Carolina will teach him what he needs, but it's going to be a couple of years. But I don't know. I think everybody is just at the point now where we're tired of talking about it. We want to see some results. It's to the point where how much longer can you keep defending the guy when you get nothing in return? I mean,
what about trade? Maybe a trade possibility with teams needing a frontline starter.
That's why you let him. That's why the second he's healthy, I don't care. You throw him in because let's be honest, Kyle Allen isn't winning these games. Christian McCaffrey is. Kyle Allen's making a couple of throws. He made a great throw on third down the other day, last week, but he also fumbled the ball 3 times that made that third down so important. So, I mean, what is it? I put Cam in no matter what to beef up that trade value, just in case the idea is to move on. That's why I throw him in the second he's healthy and see what happens. But yeah, I could see Carolina trading him because Tepper, new owner in, Cam is not his guy. He did not draft Cam. He's never, of course, he's going to say publicly he likes him. He's the face of the franchise. Whether he truly does or not, I don't know. I haven't heard that in public or in private, anything. But what his true opinion is, who knows? But I could see anything happening with almost anyone on this team that didn't come in with Tepper.
Yeah, and I think what you see in today's NFL too, Drew, is you see a lot more trades than you used to.
Oh, yeah.
Years past, it was just you didn't get re-signed, and then you signed with a new team. But now you're seeing a lot more teams trading. And even, the thing that's head-scratching to me is you even see teams that's kind of crazy. They actually trade in division.
Yeah, I know.
Traded it, to the Patriots. And I've seen the Steelers made a deal with the Browns with It's a lot more. Not only is there more trades, but even in division, it's a whole new sort of NFL of I'm old, so, it's not the NFL I grew up with. I'm not even saying that in a bad way. I think I like actually the trades, but
I love it.
Years ago, there if you had one trade in the NFL, that was like
it was
big
huge.
News.
Yeah,
it was like NFL trade. It didn't even matter. It could be like the backup center for like a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Just because it was a trade that never happened in the NFL, it was like big news. But now you're seeing a lot more, teams moving guys to each other, and that's that's why I asked you about the Cam thing. Is
Well, I think that has a lot of the trades here. Before we wrap up, I'm going to pull up the scoreboard, let everybody take a look at the scores as Kansas City is still losing to the Colts 13-10 with 3 minutes left in the third. That's ridiculous to me. But
that's great. I almost picked that game.
Yeah, I know so did I. But what you were saying about the managers or about trades, I actually think that comes with the younger general managers in the league. I think that there's a lot of new philosophy with the young GMs, the young coaches, a lot of new people in positions of power. I think you're seeing it with the offenses, you're seeing it with the defenses, all the schemes, a lot of new stuff come in, and now you're starting to see a lot of trades. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the new blood that's come into the front office positions. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you don't follow football religiously, you might not understand how important those front office positions are. But
and the other thing, even speaking on the Steelers were traditionally a team that just builds their team up through the draft.
Yeah.
And even they recently have changed the philosophy and getting Hayden, trading for Mika Fitzpatrick. There was some other talk about some other deals that didn't happen, but they were at least being discussed. And this is very un-Steeler-like. If you've been a fan of, because Steelers in trade never would go in the same sentence, even when trading became more prevalent. So the fact that even they have kind of said the old way is not getting it done, we need to adapt to the new NFL, tells you where the league's going.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So, John, before we wrap everything up, it looks like we found our platform. So, guys, we'll be growing this a little bit more, bringing a couple of different things here in the future. Future episodes, probably during this week, we'll list a couple of questions where you guys can come into the comments and leave your opinions, and we'll discuss them on the air. And like we said before, we're going to have it to where if you'd like to come on the show, debate something we said, if there's an opinion that Newman over here had, or myself, if anything that you disagree with, if you think my criticism of the god-awful Falcons is too rough, feel free to come on the show and let me know how right I am.
Dan Quinn better dust that for sale sign off, because
dude, Dan Quinn sold his. Dan Quinn's already sold his house. He knows his wife's taking the kids out of school. I mean, it's homeschool them, get ready, you're gone. He knows it. But it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I apologize for the episode 1 delays. As I said on this week's Let Me Get That Polygraph, we trusted Facebook, and that was our fault. Watch them cut me off right now after an hour and 15 minutes and nothing. They cut me off after I say that, but it is what it is. But John, looks like we found the right platform. So
I think we did. I think too, as we do more shows, we'll work out even more kinks. And like you said, we want to be interactive. So if anyone wants to come on and you hear something you don't particularly agree with exactly or completely or whatever, we're not going to fight that off.
It's very easy, guys, to come on. Like, it's not you have to have a webcam set up or anything. You can either come on just as audio, or you can come on just using an iPhone or an Android, just your camera, like FaceTime. It's not anything difficult. So if you're sitting at home looking at it on Facebook, sitting on the couch, and you just decide, hey, Drew said something ridiculously stupid, which I probably did like 10 times tonight, then feel free to jump on and give me shit for it.
Yeah, and if you think like, man, I'm kind of ugly, I don't really want to be on camera. I mean, if you came on, you'll be on the same screen with me, and you'll definitely be more in the middle rather than. So I'll make you look better. So if that makes you feel a little bit better, don't hesitate to jump in.
That's right. But everybody that stop by and watch us live this week, thank you guys for tuning in. And well, John, I guess we'll be back next Sunday.
All right, I'm looking forward to it already.
All right. See you guys later.
See you guys.